Hello, you've caught me wondering what the hell that noise is. What is that noise?
Launching in Japan, the US and Europe across the year 2000, the PlayStation 2 looked to continue the astounding momentum generated when Sony exploded into the console market a few years prior. But could they continue to dominate?
To Wikipedia. Releasing at a price of $299, the PS2 would become the best-selling home console of all time, totaling around 155 million units sold. Approximately 3,800 games were released for the system, with software sales hitting the 1.5 billion mark. It also had a built-in DVD player and was backwards compatible with PS1 games, so I think it did okay.
The PS2's runaway success could well be attributed to a weakened Nintendo, a market newcomer in Microsoft's Xbox, and the departure of Sega. But to focus solely on that and to ignore the strong and expansive library of titles to be released on the console would be a disservice.
So today we'll be looking back at where it all began, specifically with the US launch lineup of games. This isn't them here, this is just for decorative purposes. I'll be sort of reviewing them as I go. Are you ready? Then let's do this.
Hey, it's From Software, we know that one! Armored Core 2 is a mech third-person shooter. In other words, you're in a giant robot and shoot other giant robots, and also you have a laser sword. In this universe, humanity has bombed itself into subterranean living in the wake of an event called the Great Destruction. However, upon discovering a secret project on Mars, humanity's back, baby! And they're getting right back to what they're best at, trying to kill each other again. Assuming the role of a mercenary, it's time to join in the killing, and you get your very own mech! TripleJump colors, obviously, and you can even swap out parts to customize your fighting machine and create a custom emblem. Looking snazzy. Unfortunately, as a newcomer, the controls are weird.
Oh god, how do I play?
You use the D-pad to move and shoulder buttons to strafe/look up and down, respectively. How very normal.
Your piloting abilities are impressive.
Armored Core 2 earned a review average of 78% on Metacritic, with Game Informer's Andrew Rayner calling the lighting effects and environments absolutely incredible. An enhanced edition of the arcade and Dreamcast version released earlier that year, Dead or Alive 2 Hardcore is a fighting game, and would you look at that? My favourite tiny pink head ninja returns, but boy is she enthusiastic about it.
I want more.
I won't have any mercy, even for a woman.
Whoa, alright mate.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
The main thrust of the story in this instance is that the dreaded evil Tengu Go Yakumine Bankotsubo, maybe, is trying to break into the human world. Fortunately for all of you, Tiny Pinkhead Ninja absolutely pulled his trousers down for the world to see. And that's it. Roll credits. 7-minute game, speedrun confirmed. Only messing. Of course, there's still plenty to do, like take part in tag battles, a focal point of another fighting game we'll touch upon later. Dead or Alive 2 Hardcore is a very pretty game, greatly benefiting from Sony's new hardware, and I was a big fan of booting people off buildings and ledges. Great stuff. A massive 91% on Metacritic. This is no place for a baby, but my god if Dynasty Warriors intros don't just nail it with the bonkers, I have to assume, period-appropriate rock music. For many, including myself, Dynasty Warriors 2 on the PlayStation 2 was my first exposure to this series, and if you don't enjoy wading into a crowd of enemies and setting them flying with absurd weaponry, then buddy, you ain't living. The classic Dynasty formula is present and accounted for. Kill lots of differently coloured boys, kill the gate captains, kill the special named enemies, rinse and repeat. It's simple, but extremely effective. It was also hugely impressive to have quite so many enemies on screen at one time. Yeah, there's that permanent fog of war obscuring the environment, but it does nothing to detrimentally impact the experience. While you can ride a horse, which is an undeniable necessity in every game, most critics took issue with the game's lack of depth. Next Generation awarded it 60%, saying the gameplay is strictly old school, fun, but not terribly deep, with the final average settling on 75% according to Metacritic. Oh yeah, here we go, sports time! I've played an athletics game before. And I've also watched athletics, but even so, I'm going to give this everything I've got.
But before I tell you more about this fantastic game, you can now officially buy an Oh Yeah, Here We Go Sports Time t-shirt at TripleJumpShop.com. Please buy one. Wasn't it worth the wait? Wasn't it worth the wait? It was worth the wait. Also, there's a 69ers pin.
In the year 2000, there was an Olympics, and there was an official Olympics game. Sod that, screamed Konami, let's blow the dust off the last-gen version of International Track and Field instead. As such, all of your favourite athletic events are present. I was bad at every single one. In the 100 metres, I failed to start running. I mean, what's he even doing back there? My pole vaulting attempts did start poorly, but slowly progressed. Oh, yes! Oh, f*** you. Go big or go home. Home. We're going home. Oh, he's doing it. He's done it! Ninth place. Piss off. Now, this has got to be my calling. Screw the judges, that was a once-in-a-lifetime performance and they're all jealous. 72% on Metacritic. Oh, and sleep tight, don't let the emulator glitch run a bite, he's coming. Oh yeah, here we go, sports time! I've played a snow-based sports game before.
Please help, I came here with a group and we've been separated.
But I've never watched snow sports, so I'm going to give this everything I've got. ESPN Winter X Games Snowboarding 2002, or ESPN Winter Ekusu Gemazu Snowboardingu 2002, if you want to get Japanese per Wikipedia about this, is unsurprisingly a snowboarding game. And would you look at ESPN desperately trying to cover all of the sports this console launch season. A few different modes are included, with a career mode featuring a free roam mountainous environment and a very strange ski lodge where you turn into a Roblox character for some reason. Regardless, you can create a custom guy or gal for this mode and can kit them out with various branded gear. For money. On the flip side, you can board it up in downhill races. However, the controls are a little stiff and caused me to just miss this gate here. Bollocks that. I was equally rubbish at doing tricks in the snowy halfpipe, and smashed into the floor loads while doing tricks downhill. Oh, look at me go. While ESPN WXGS seems to hold a nostalgic spot in many people's hearts, it earned just 64% on Metacritic, with Game Informer calling it sufficient, but the gameplay is just pretty blah. Looky here, another FromSoft title, and this one's a little more in line with what we've come to expect from the studio that makes players cry on the regular. In fact, when I was researching this game, I thought Elden Ring had ripped off the name. Same dev, mate. Dingus. Speaking incredibly broadly, Eternal Ring is about a dragon horny for a magical ring. Wahey, and also people want it too as well. It provides way more story context than we normally get though. It's a first-person dungeon crawler and oh boy is the combat a bit wonky. Much like the developer's other launch title, movement and steering is locked to the left stick, with the shoulder buttons controlling strafing and looking up and down. Feels very natural and very normal. I loved it. There is a lot of Souls DNA in here though, the foreboding atmosphere, sparsely placed save points, picking up grass off the floor. Hell, it might not say you died, but if you even so much as touch the water, you're absolutely cooked. Back to the main menu with you, go on. Oh Jesus! Eternal Ring might not feature the refinement we've come to expect from the Soulsborne developer, but it's certainly a curiosity that's well worth revisiting by fans of their later games. 62% on Metacritic. Oh, you thought they were done? From Software are back at it again on the PS2 with a record, in this series of videos at least, third launch title. An action RPG featuring dual protagonists you can swap between, Evergrace is another wonky effort from the big FS, and much like a lot of their pre-Demon Souls work, features a fair amount of the DNA we've come to know and love in later games. Weird NPCs, stamina systems for attacking and running, strange, unhelpful lore, wearing pots. There are some nice design choices, with equipped armor actually displaying on the character model, and little brain teasers like this statue that hinted I'd need to unequip my weapons to pass. The voice acting is not good.
Are you awake?
And falling off cliffs is very easily achieved, as well as being booted back to the main menu afterwards. But I'd say Evergrace is closer to Demons and Dark Souls than Eternal Ring. It's honestly quite shocking how a studio could have 3 games in concurrent development for a console launch, but when you look at the review scores, it all starts to make a lot of sense, really. 59% on Metacritic. At least I wouldn't make the cliff mistake a second time. One of PlayStation's greatest oddities, FantaVision, is a puzzle game come fireworks simulator designed to show off the PS2 and stress test your emulator. Just look how much fun this little girl is having. I bet you wish you were having that much fun. Well, you can't, for the innocent joys of youth are far behind us all. But how does it work? I will tell you, please stop shouting. Controlling a little guide thing, you zip between fireworks of the same colour, linking 3 or more before detonating them for points. You can even hop onto a rainbow firework to chain into different colours and get those crazy combos, and that's sort of it, really. It's addictive, a visual treat, and incredibly satisfying when you chain together large numbers of fireworks before making them do a big old explode, collecting power-ups along the way. There is a versus multiplayer mode too, but I don't have any friends, so going solo will have to do. 72% on Metacritic, with Next Gen's Eric Bratcher calling FantaVision a visually arresting cousin of Missile Command masquerading as a puzzle game. Bloody stupid mech games. Bloody stupid mech games with bloody stupid mech names. It's Gungriffon Blaze, everyone. I'm biased. I don't get mech games, but I'll come right out and sing Gungriffon Blaze's praises. It is better and more fun than Armored Core 2. Is that a controversial statement? Probably. But this is the hill I will die on, so please bring flowers. Anyway, the weird mech controls return, this time having the right stick handle moving and strafing with the left stick steering. Brilliant. However, once that confusing hurdle is overcome, you can slide around all over the shop like a super duper robot king or queen. Customize your mech with different weapons and buffs, explode buildings, tanks and other mechs, and if you, like me, have suffered through mandatory workplace training seminars, you'll be able to relate to the exuberant training completion celebrations. I also enjoyed that, instead of being a lone wolf, you get the opportunity to charge in alongside your fellow mech teammates, blowing everything in sight to pieces. I have accomplished my object. 73% on Metacritic, and it was even nominated for IGN's Best PS2 Action Game of 2000 award, ultimately losing out to another launch game we'll get to shortly. Oh yeah, here we go, sports time! I've played an American football game before. Oh, looks like they're playing in COVID times. Oh, no, my mistake, there's the crowd. But I've never watched American football, so I'm going to give this everything I've got.
Damn, man, 2001. We ballin' way harder than you, and I'm gon' prove it. Set up your best defense, I'm running through it. So check out the play-by-play with John Madden. Exhibit with EA Sports, we can't smash.
Cool.
The San Francisco 69ers are back in sports time action today, but what do the sports charts have to say? Ah yes, of course, some good insight there. Here come the block men, now in groundbreaking PS2 vision, and they're phasing through one another. That's fine. I spent a lot of time on defense this time around, with very little, as they call it in the business, ball fondling time. As a result, I actually found myself getting a little frustrated. I conceded a touchdown, and that was enough for me. Thank you very much. There's an option on the main menu for something called Madden cards, which upon Googling, I've discovered allow players to perform certain actions during gameplay, for example, adding 5th downs or limiting the CPU-controlled team to 3rd downs. This will mean something to someone, I'm sure. Madden NFL 2001 earned an eye-watering 91% on Metacritic, with Next Generation calling it a reason to own a PS2. Astonishing. Ooh, time for some naughty car crime. Working as a New York City taxi driver, the player comes to learn of a secret group of underground street racers called the Midnight Club and thinks, yes, absolutely, I must do this, I want to do this, please. And so, you attempt to climb the ranks, winning races and earning better cars across New York City and London. And let's talk about these cities for a moment. Despite its relatively humble visuals by today's standards, Midnight Club street racing has impressive scope. The cities are large and well realized, featuring relevant landmarks and populated streets. And considering its status as a Rockstar-developed title in a pre-GTA 3 world, you have to wonder if Midnight Club perhaps had an influence on that game's open world design? Maybe not, but you can run over pedestrians, so it's a 10 out of 10 for me. The AI's a bit rubbish, and the stereotypes are in full swing.
Yo, here's my number, Papo. Call me when you want to race head-to-head.
So that might explain why critics didn't agree with me, awarding the game an average score of 78% according to Metacritic. Come on, yes! Yes! I win! Oh, God, what cost?
I got all kinds.
Oh yeah, here we go, sports time! I've played a hockey game before. Any game that has a button for big hit is alright in my book, but I've never watched hockey, so I'm going to give this everything I've got. The block people are back, and they've brought some cardboard friends with them. That's sweet. Goal! I am the best at hockey and doing big hits. Oh Christ, look out, here he comes. Despite my Penguins' valiant efforts, I struggled to follow up with the second goal, and it didn't affect the team in the slightest. Are you alright, mate? As we saw with Madden, annualized sports games are uniquely positioned to showcase the leap between console generations. After all, they make one every year. So with the last gen point of comparison only releasing a year prior, the differences should be quite apparent, and this gets people very excited come launch day. They even leveraged the PS2's extra power to include Latvia and Ukraine in the national team lineup, so there you go. X-Play said of NHL 2001, it's not as flawless as it could be, but it's damn close, with the review average settling on 85% according to Metacritic. Based on the light novel series Sorceress Stabber Orphen, Scion of Sorcery is an admittedly quite ropey RPG with great presentation. In fact, when I first booted it up and saw the anime cutscenes and heard the strong voice acting, I had high hopes, but after sitting through the approximately 12 hours of dialogue preceding gameplay, it wasn't really worth the wait. Also, as good as the voice acting is, the character models do not do it justice at all.
Now that I think of it, we shouldn't have to go out this far just to get to Arvin Rama.
So with very little context, you're stuck on a boat and a giant monster is attacking it. I made my way from room to room, sometimes opening chests, often hearing more voice acting, before finally having my first encounter. There was no tutorial or crash course as to the controls, but there was a button for lightning that I discovered through trial and error. The crystals appeared to indicate health, and when damage is taken, you have a sort of short-range blast thing, as well as a blocking shield sphere, I think. Anyway, it was all very odd, and soon after you're stranded on an island. Fun. 54% on Metacritic, with one critic calling it both frustrating and not very challenging at the same time. Wow, never has Billiards ever been cooler. What a weird menu, I thought to myself. What is the relevance of a series of AV cables? But there was no answer, because this was a very simple game about playing pool. And that's it. Genuinely, there's nothing more to this game than playing billiards, and so I'm not really sure how else to pad out this entry. It's a game about pool that's absolutely bang average, 65% on Metacritic, and the best critics could say is that it's certainly worth a look, which I'm sure you'll agree is very high praise indeed. At the very least, they included the functionality to hit the ball with the power of 10 suns. Just overkill, really. Right, pack it up, we're just spinning our wheels here, let's move on. Look out! Ready to Rumble Boxing Round 2 is here to punch you right in the face. Michael Buffer, you know, the Let's Get Ready to Rumble guy, reprises his role, and I have very serious concerns about how he, a real man, is existing in this hellish dimension of cartoonishly proportioned men and women. I mean, is it a Looney Tunes Space Jam type deal, or... Oh no, he's become one of them now. Right off the bat, these lady punch noises are absolutely criminal. Who on earth heard that and thought, yeah, that's fine and not off-putting and crap at all, get that in there?
Wanna kiss my hand, honey?
Not this time, thank you. As previously, landing successful big punches or taunting at the right time will reveal the word rumble, allowing you to unleash a devastating barrage. However, this time you can fill it up 3 times to hit a super duper combo that I assume just kills your opponent dead. Probably. There's a championship career mode where you can train and challenge for titles, etc., but I was just a lumbering great target for haymakers and so had little success. 75% on Metacritic.
Ridge Racer! Remember that one?
We're running out of opportunities to use that clip, and I am not passing this one up. It's the beginning of the PS2 era, and we're already on Ridge Racer 5. To put that into some kind of context, it took 5 years to get to 6, an additional year to get to Ridge Racer 7, and we haven't had a numbered entry since. Shame, because Ridge Racer is excellent and pretty and good. Selecting a car and applying no customization options because I hadn't unlocked anything, I entered a Grand Prix, sort of sliding around corners to that signature thumping EDM, leaving my fellow racers in the dust. That is, while driving in third person. In first person, it's a confusing nightmare, a claustrophobic horror show with little sense of direction and no sense of subtlety when drifting at speed. However, Ridge Racer 5 is a very pretty game. Have I mentioned that it's pretty? It's well pretty. Shiny cars reflect the environments around them, and the tracks are dense and highly detailed. Look at that plane go! Wow! A strong next-gen debut with 78% on Metacritic, and we all know the series has a lot more to offer. Come on, Namco, please. It might be amusing how challenging I found the home port of Silent Scope if it were remotely amusing in any way, but like the heavily armoured man once said, ain't that a shot in the elbow? Silent Scope in the arcade is a masterclass of realising all your distanced killing fantasies. You get to point a big gun peripheral at a screen, there's no bullet drop-off, and you're timed in your efforts to take out the baddies Virtua Cop style. Silent Scope on the PS2, however, is like trying to have an arm wrestling match with an octopus covered in baby oil. Yeah, you picture that! Naturally, at home, most people will be using the thumbstick to aim. This is far more cumbersome than using a physical light gun attachment, especially when you're trying to track a moving target, as seen here, with a terrorist evading the 69ers handily while the president's daughter is slung over his shoulder. It definitely has that enjoyable arcade cheese, with the voice acting living up to the hype.
We secured the president's daughter, but they caught the president and have gone.
But for me, it just doesn't translate to a gamepad. 63% on Metacritic. Our second Rockstar published game of this launch lineup, Smugglers Run, saw you delivering naughty goods through a variety of environments while avoiding the authorities and other like-minded gangs. Christ, it's always crime stuff with these guys, isn't it? What are they like, rascals? Nipping across landscapes collecting packages can be quite the exhilarating experience, but for me, my hashtag crime career will last precisely as long as the nice voiceover lady keeps offering me encouragement.
Faster, faster, faster! They always shout that at you, don't they?
What? The physics can be a little mental, resulting in weird, harsh turns or violent tumbles, but it's more fun than frustrating. Except when you're in a race, and everyone is going the same speed. How can I win? I don't understand. Yes, you can hit animals and pedestrians, and yes, it makes you a bad person. Smugglers Run didn't exactly set the world on fire, but it did steal the hearts of many an early PS2 adopter. Oh. It earned an average of 79% on Metacritic, with Next Gen saying, a truly next-generation launch title. It's fast, fun, and free of constraint, just the way we like our cross-country crime sprees.
That's the lot, all wrapped up with a big bow on it. Excellent work.
From what I can gather, the Street Fighter EX series is a spin-off from the mainline games, and was the very first attempt at taking a popular two-dimensional fighting game and bringing the concept to 3 dimensions. It began in arcades, and logically, Street Fighter EX3 is the third entry. Are you keeping up? Street Fighter aficionados, I'm relying on you here. Does that sound right? I'm proper rubbish with fighting games, and when you start affixing all manners of acronyms and spinning things off, you've gone and left me in the dust there, buddy. Anyway, it appears to be properly focused on super and meteor combos. Once again, leaning into my expertise. And you can recruit new teammates for multi-person fights upon successfully beating the crap out of them. Here's Zangief joining mine. And here's Zangief celebrating a win. Oh my god, are you okay, friend?
Call someone, he's going into shock!
Like a surprising amount of the PS2 launch games, there is a tag battle element, but we'll get to the true king in due course, sorry. I also set up a 5-on-1 match in my favour, and that was fun. It received an average of 64% on Metacritic. Brought to us by Volition, you know, the Saints Row people, I think it's fair to say Summoner has not aged particularly gracefully. It opens with an impressively dense lore dump filled with fantasy RPG nonsense words like the Realm of Medivh, Emperor Murod of Arenia, and the Rings of Summoning. As you can tell, Summoner is an action RPG. Admittedly, I didn't play for long enough to properly explore all of its nooks and or crannies, but I'd describe the combat as RuneScape-esque, in that you click attack and Joseph, your main boy, will just do that until he wins or dies or you tell him to do something else. It's likely I've compared it to RuneScape because of its visual style, because, man, it even panned behind a wall for this section of dialogue, which is great. I'm sure you can tell from my tone that this was not a game I enjoyed, but it did alright with the critics, securing a 74% average. Game Revolution called it unoriginal, with subpar presentation, and Hot Games called it a great fantasy game. All I know is that I'm itching for some sports time. Oh yeah, here we go, sports time! I've played a golf game before. You've also got golf, which is really hard due to slightly wonky power readings and all the spectators sounding sarcastic. But I've never watched golf, so I'm going to give this everything I've got. Now, I know what you're thinking, and no, this isn't everybody's golf. In fact, Wikipedia goes out of its way to make it clear that some light plagiarism is afoot. As a big fan of everybody's golf, I was optimistic, and you know what? Presentation-wise, Swing Away Golf did a great job. The problem is that the swing mechanic, well hey, is needlessly complex. It looks as you would expect. X to start, X to confirm power, X in the sweet spot to confirm accuracy, but it all goes different colours and I don't know, I was bad. Can you tell? Fortunately, there is a lovely and encouraging VO lady on hand to guide you through, you know, until she's really unhelpful.
Could you have hit it a bit stronger?
Okay.
You hit the ball a little too hard.
Well, which is it? If you're not very good, like me, there is a very real risk posed to camera operators, but Swing Away Golf served its purpose as a competent Everybody's Golf clone, and that's okay. 78% on Metacritic. Oh, and David Bowie's in it. It's time to talk about the best fighting game about crashing cars into one another that you've ever seen. While many of the launch fighting games have featured tag battles, there's only one that does it so good, and that's Tekken Tag Tournament. It looks great, it plays fantastically, you can knock out men with their own knees and see it replayed several times for your own sick enjoyment, you sick person. Oh, you're so sick, stop it. Naturally, I had to go with my boy King. But I really enjoyed switching between my fighters, tactically swapping out based on who had the most or least health and could get the job done. There's just something so effortlessly cool about Tekken. Unlike a lot of the more complex fighting games, it just makes sense to me. I definitely mash buttons, but it makes you feel and look very cool, and that's to be commended, I think. 86% on Metacritic, and reviewers were united in their praise. Next Generation called Tekken Tag Tournament densely packed, gloriously rendered, and very playable, and GamePro were particularly excited that you could see individual blades of grass. Welcome to the future. I love TimeSplitters, but like many, my adoration stems from the second and third titles in the series. Developed by the core Rare team behind the classic GoldenEye 007, however, could the newly founded Free Radical design really miss with their debut outing? No, is the answer. While many things, including story, were polished up for its sequels, the TimeSplitters DNA is present and accounted for here. The music, those menu select noises, are here, as is the ability to choose between several characters, mo-capped enemies peering out from behind cover and dying in spectacular fashion, highly interactable environments like bashable gongs, as well as Windows impressively shattering arcade mode and story missions. Admittedly, the missions follow the same basic structure. Shoot your way into a level, grab an object from the level, then dodge the assaulting TimeSplitters on your way to the exit, but it really was a precursor for what would come in later games. There was even a rudimentary mapmaker for use in local multiplayer. So, all things considered, and no jokes allowed, TimeSplitters had issues, but its lofty ambitions were very impressive. It achieved 81% on Metacritic and was the winner of IGN's Action Game of 2000 award. Now, if Doak and the team would kindly bring us another, that'd be great. Oh, wonderful! Releasing close to a year after its groundbreaking PC and Mac counterparts, Unreal Tournament didn't fare quite as well on the PS2. The bulk of the experience was present. Several game modes including Capture the Flag and Deathmatch, lots of powerful weapons that turn enemies into exploding giblets, and labyrinthine levels to confound your fellow combatants. But critics just weren't as sold on the console port. Some complained of a more washed-out colour palette, while others bemoaned the wonky controls. I must agree with the latter complaint, as while the auto-aim is very handy, I did have to immediately go in and change my control scheme around. Also, apparently the more experienced you are, the bigger your head becomes. That's how it works, to be fair. It did support local multiplayer and PS2 iLink, but naturally online play was a huge part of Unreal Tournament's PC success, something the PS2 couldn't yet properly emulate. It was quite dull with only stupid AI for company, but I did enjoy the weapons and their varying alternate fire modes. Definitely want to get your friends over to fight about who peeked at whose screen then. No, you definitely looked, why else would you turn 180 degrees on the spot? 77% on Metacritic. A game so wild they named it Twild. It's Wild Wild Racing, and it's fine. It's an off-road racing game pitting you and a few other vehicles against one another with the aim of winning. If that sounds like I'm padding because I don't have much to say about it, then you'd be right. For the life of me, I couldn't work out how to handbrake turn, or at the very least turn into corners at anything resembling speed, resulting in having to either smash into the outer walls or come to a complete stop. The collision is also weird. I hit another car and sort of got stuck on them and then hit an invisible wall while trying to take a sick racing line. Good stuff, that. It's kind of ugly too, with a weird rotating parallax or whatever you want to call it. Just what's happening with the skybox? It's horrible. 3, 2, 1, go! Now, I'm not certain, but is that the same voiceover guy from TimeSplitters?
3, 2, 1. Go!
Probably not. Anyway, Wild Wild Racing should have been called Mild Mild Racing, and it earned 64% on Metacritic. Sliding on the ice courses was fun, though. XSquad is one of those games where all the characters look like the shiny people from a late 90s Sega arcade game. It does, however, feature Judd Johnson, my favourite character name ever, and yes, I would die for Judd Johnson, you know you would too. It's a sort of action game spy thriller with the ropiest voice acting you've ever heard.
Bring out the big guns.
Genuinely love it. It's just so bad. Camera controls are inverted by default, which should be a war crime, and thank God for auto-aim. Couldn't tell you what the plot is, to be honest, but gameplay essentially consists of shooting lots of the same men in repeating hallways, pressing buttons, fighting comical bosses, and listening to more bad dialogue delivered in the hammiest manner possible.
I think I've got something.
What'd you find?
Looks like there are prisoners in some holding cells.
Excellent.
When you get close to enemies, your gun stops working for some reason and forces you to start limply kicking instead, leaving you open to attack from other combatants. It earned an average score of 64% on Metacritic and recently had the distinction of being featured on an episode of Worst Games Ever.
XSquad.
Is it one of the worst games ever made? Probably not, but it's definitely worse than most. And that 64% takes the average of the PS2 launch lineup to 73.2%.
And there we are, every PS2 launch game sort of reviewed in 2021. Which among them was your favourite? Let me know in the comments below. Why not follow me on Twitter to keep up to date with future videos in this series? I know this one took a while, but we've been back in the office and it's been super chaotic and busy, but hopefully there'll be another one with you soon. I don't know. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. Tell your friends about it. Why not? Subscribe, share the video around, and I will see you all very soon. Take care of yourselves. Bye!